More than just a Hollywood celebrity, Clint Walker was also a talented actor who brought the brave cowboy Cheyenne Bodie to life in the Western series Cheyenne. While his career was successful, the emotional struggles he faced behind the camera were much deeper. Years after his death, more information about his troubled life has emerged. What was this tragedy, and why did it remain buried for so long? We reveal the horrifying truth behind Clint Walker's untold story in this video. Let's get started. Clint Walker's early life. First, let's learn about his early life before getting into the issue. The path that Clint Walker took from his modest origins to his popularity in Hollywood is as impressive as it gets. Walker was born on the 30th of May 1927 in Hartford, Illinois. He did not spend his formative years by himself. Naomi Lucille was the name of his identical twin sister. During the time that their father was working at a factory, their mother, who had come to the United States from the Czech Republic at a young age, remained at home to raise the children. Unfortunately, when Clint and Naomi were still little, their parents split, leaving their mother and grandparents to raise them. This was a difficult time for them. Even though Clint went to Roosevelt Junior High and Alton High School, he never really committed himself to his academic pursuits. To provide for his family, he kept himself busy after school by taking a variety of odd jobs. He did everything from cleaning floors to working at a grocery shop in the neighborhood. This was the time in Clint's life when he first became interested in bodybuilding and became passionate about it. Beginning at the Alton YMCA, he began lifting weights, and it rapidly became his favorite activity to do in his spare time. A courageous choice was made by Clint while he was in his second year of high school. After dropping out of college, he went to work full-time. In the beginning, he worked at a local manufacturing. Nevertheless, it wasn't long before he discovered that working in a factory was not the right employment for him. The monotony of it was certainly not something that suited his sense of adventure. Almost immediately after that, he found himself working as a deckhand on a river barge, a position that allowed him to experience the freedom of the wide water. Working on the river provided Clint with both independence and a sense of challenge, and as soon as he reached 17, he was aware of what course of action he needed to take next. He committed himself to joining the Merchant Marines without any reservations. If Clint were to make this choice, it would take him far beyond the riverbanks of Illinois and provide him the opportunity to live an exciting life on the seas. Working on ships provided him with the opportunity to travel to other regions of the world and acquire skills that are quite useful in everyday life. The thrill of discovering new places was not the only thing that pulled him in. In addition to the sense of duty that came with the work, there was also a sense of discipline. The fact that these experiences were preparing Clint for something far more significant, a future in Hollywood, was something he was completely unaware of. Nevertheless, it was not the end of Clint's story. Following his time spent serving in the Merchant Marine, he was prepared to embark on a new phase of his life, one that would take him from the rough riverbanks and the high seas to the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas. It was through this shift that Clint would begin his early career, which would eventually take him down the route that would eventually lead him to become one of the most legendary performers in the history of Western film. Do you want to know how he went from working on a barge to being a professional cowboy in Hollywood? To put it simply, this is when things start to get rather fascinating. Career. Following his stint in the Merchant Marine, Clint Walker went from job to job throughout the country, working anywhere he could find an opening. Although he lived in locations like Brownwood, Texas, and Long Beach, California, his life unexpectedly changed in Las Vegas, Nevada. With its energetic nightlife and glitzy entertainment scene, Las Vegas turned into the ideal setting for Clint's next trip. He started working as a doorman at the esteemed Sands Hotel, which let him enter a world he had never experienced. At the Sands Hotel, Clint rubbed elbows with celebrities, artists, and powerful individuals. He had a front-row view of the glitter and splendor of Las Vegas from his work, and he soon attracted the interest of several prominent people. One such meeting was with actor Van Johnson, who urged Clint to give acting some thought after his tough good looks and natural charm caught his eye. Clint lacked official acting instruction at this time, but the concept seized his mind. Perhaps more awaited him outside the hotel doors. But the Korean War erupted just as Clint was starting to investigate a Hollywood career. Inspired by a fresh feeling of obligation, Clint chose to return to the Merchant Marine, this time hoping to help with the war effort. His stint in the Merchant Marine during the war sharpened his will and provided direction. Still, his thoughts kept returning to acting even as he was serving. Returning to civilian life following the war, Clint was prepared to follow his Hollywood dream, that of a Hollywood star rising. The path Clint Walker's trip to Hollywood success started down the most unanticipated lines. He ran across Henry Wilson, a talent agent renowned for detecting raw ability and shaping it into something remarkable, after settling in Los Angeles. In Clint, Wilson saw something unique: his tough appearance, tall height, and natural charm. Clint landed a little uncredited part in a movie called Jungle Gents with Wilson's assistance. He had only one straightforward phrase, take Jane, and assumed a Tarzan-like quality in this part. Though little, it was a start and demonstrated Clint's screen presence necessary for more. Wilson aimed to mold Clint into a Hollywood star, not only happy with little parts. To help Clint improve his acting, he urged him to enroll in classes. Clint met an older actor named Camp Summers during one of these acting workshops. Summers shared with Clint a possibility that would turn his life around. Seeking large guys to depict palace guards, Cecil B. DeMille was casting for his epic picture, The Ten Commandments. Though he had his reservations and considered it a long shot, Clint offered Summers his phone number anyway, in case. About a week later, Clint was surprised to find DeMille's right-hand guy, Will Coxon, phoning him. Clint was asked to Paramount Studios to personally meet DeMille. For Clint, landing a passage in the Ten Commandments was a major turning point. However, it took 5 hard years to finish, and wasn't released until 1956. The movie exposed Clint to the elite in the business, and offered his first experience of working on a major Hollywood project. During this period, nevertheless, there occurred another significant transformation. Henry Wilson advised a rebranding, as he felt Clint's name lacked the Hollywood appeal needed. To set himself apart, Clint Walker changed his identity to Jet Norman, a moniker meant to inspire curiosity and mystery. Though brief, the name change signaled a major career turning point for Clint. Under Jet Norman, he began to land more parts and become more visible in Hollywood. He had the looks and the build, and today he presents a polished picture of a real star thanks to Wilson's direction. Though Jet Norman didn't stick for long, the experience helped Clint get recognized, and his acting career was finally gathering steam. But the actual turning point was just around the bend. From little roles and uncredited performances to become of the most legendary Western actors of his day, what occurred next would propel Clint from modest jobs and uncredited appearances. Clint Walker as Cheyenne Bodie marks the tipping point. Once Clint Walker secured the part that would permanently alter his life, Cheyenne Bodie, his career shot forward. It all began with an audition from which Walker wasn't sure he would even get a call back. He doubted his possibilities as he entered the room since he was surrounded by famous performers. But only a few weeks later, Walker learned the news that would fundamentally alter everything. "You, Cheyenne Bodie," they informed him, "are his height and attractiveness made him the ideal fit for the part." The producers sensed something unique in him and thus started his path as the venerable cowboy hero negotiating life following the American Civil War. Walker's casting announcement rocked the business in June of 1955. He had evolved from simply Clint Walker. He had evolved into Cheyenne Bodie, the tough but compassionate cowboy viewers would come to adore. Though Warner Brothers debuted the show Cheyenne alongside versions of Kings Row and Casablanca, it was Cheyenne that grabbed attention right once. Comprising an amazing 8 seasons, the show was a smash and made Clint Walker a household name. The presence of Walker on television was one of the elements that set Cheyenne apart from other shows. His tall and muscular frame meant that he regularly had times when he appeared to be bare-chested, which most certainly grabbed the attention of the onlookers. Walker, on the other hand, was more than just a stunningly beautiful human being with a rough exterior. The fact that he appeared was just one of the many things that contributed to the success of the program. Not only were the performances excellent, but the narratives were also very nicely presented. The intricacy that Walker brought to the character of Cheyenne Bodie was a significant factor in his ability to leave an indelible mark on Western television. Walker's talent, on the other hand, was not acting. He added still another dimension of appeal to his appearance, with his soothing and rich singing voice. The fact that Walker was delivering ballads and classic melodies was something that Warner Brothers took note of, and even made an album featuring Walker. The fact that he had a limited singing range helped him connect with his listeners more. There was a time when Walker was set to make an appearance in a very important movie about the legendary Sam Houston. Unfortunately, the picture was never made, even though Warner Brothers had high hopes for the idea. Although this was a setback, Walker did not let it slow him down. His star power continued to grow, particularly in the Western genre, and he continued to be one of the most well-known personalities in Hollywood. Most of the time, Walker would underline how much he enjoyed watching Westerns. Because of his responsibilities, he was able to maintain an active lifestyle and maintain a close connection to the natural world. He never deviated too far from the genre that brought him fame. Playing cowboy was the perfect fit for him. In the past, he asserted that he was unable to see himself in any other type of position. Hence, his admirers were glad to find that he remained committed to the Western world. Certain episodes of Cheyenne were even adapted into films and shown in select cinemas to provide fans with the extra option to witness Walker in the role of their choice cowboy. Walker made a surprise appearance on an episode of Maverick with Jack Kelly, playing the role of Cheyenne Bodie, to illustrate how frequently Western television programs were intertwined with one another. However, Clint Walker's life encompassed a great deal more than his roles on screen, which included everything from Westerns to war films. It is possible that gaining an appreciation for the personal challenges and tragedies that Clint Walker faced can be facilitated by analyzing the huge range of roles that he played during his career. The talent that Walker possessed extended beyond a single genre or character, although his portrayal of Cheyenne Bodie garnered him acclaim. As an actor, he demonstrated his versatility by appearing as a guest on several movies and television shows produced by Warner Brothers, including 77 Sunset Strip. Following a fast assessment of his talent in the film industry, Warner Brothers decided to put him in the Western film Gold of the Seven Saints in the year 1961. In the film directed by Gordon Douglas, Walker appeared with Roger Moore when he was still a teenager. Even though it was another Western, Walker was unhappy with the fact that he was stuck in a single genre. After that, he began to broaden his horizons by taking on assignments that would allow him to demonstrate a more diverse range of acting abilities. Walker moved away from the Western scene to appear in Kraft's suspense theater, particularly in the episode titled Portrait of an Unknown Man, which he appeared in alongside Robert Duvall. By switching to suspense, Walker was able to showcase his theatrical talent in a setting that was quite different from the previous one. His taste in other genres was not limited either. With Send Me No Flowers, he entered comedy in 1964, sharing the screen with Rock Hudson and Doris Day. Walker's easy handling of smaller comedy parts revealed a new, funnier side to him for his fans. Frank Sinatra, who was so taken aback by Walker's cinematic presence, also saw his adaptability and put him in the lead part of the military drama None But the Brave in 1965. The fact that this was Sinatra's only directorial movie added even more significance to this part. Walker proved he was more than simply a Western star by showing in this somber war picture a different side from his typical cowboy parts. Amid all this, Walker even had a guest appearance on The Lucy Show, a popular comedy that let him shine in a lighthearted capacity. Walker assumed another exciting part in The Night of the Grizzly by 1966, when he battled a horrific grizzly bear. Not long afterward, he featured in Maya, a family adventure movie set in India, once more proving his ability to fit any environment or difficulty on film. In 1969, Walker's biggest movie hit was The Dirty Dozen, in which he portrayed quiet but tough inmate Samson Posey. The movie became an immediate classic and signaled a major turning point in his film career. Still among the most revered war movies of the day, it had an ensemble cast. Walker's performance of Posey gave the character complexity and highlighted his capacity to manage challenging parts outside of the Western subgenre. Walker went back to Westerns with More Dead Than Alive that same year, but this time the movie allowed him to investigate a more nuanced and emotionally charged character. Though from a different standpoint, it was a reconnection with the genre that molded his career. Though his emotions were typically subdued, Walker was described in the New York Times as a gorgeous and tough guy with an attractive gravity that made him a captivating performer. Walker didn't stop there. His varied responsibilities. By assuming several parts and highlighting his variety on film and television, Clint Walker kept pushing the envelope of his acting career. Walker embraced comedy in 1969, playing minor roles in two Westerns, Sam Whiskey and The Great Bank Robbery. These movies let him show a different side of his abilities, his comic timing, and his ability to inject comedy into his usually austere Western character. Walker was simply as at ease making people laugh as he portrayed the tough hero. These parts were interesting and entertaining to see because of his eagerness to go into simpler, more comic Western storylines. Walker extended his horizons even more by joining the cast of the musical comedy The Finks in 1970. Though his part was one of several in an ensemble cast, it gave his career still another dimension and demonstrated his ability to manage a range of genres outside the westerns he was renowned for. Walker's adaptability was on full show, and it was evident he was an actor ready to venture outside his comfort zone and take chances. Following his triumph in movies, Clint Walker returned to the small screen, assuming major parts in television pilots shown as part of the ABC Movie of the Week schedule. Made for television movies, these pilots were Yuma in 1971, Hard Case in 1972, and The Bounty Man also in 1972. While still investigating new character dynamics, each of these movies allowed Walker to go back to his origins as a leading man in westerns. On film or television, he demonstrated that his gift was ageless and could enthrall viewers. Walker was struggling with personal problems and the restrictions placed on him professionally, hence fighting for creative freedom behind the scenes. Despite all the success Clint Walker discovered in Hollywood, his path was not as seamless as it looked. Benevolent behind the scenes, he battled very difficult personal conflicts. Clint freely discussed his battles with despair, excessive smoking, and drinking. Though it was difficult, he was resolved to see through it all. Everyone who knew him could see his tenacity and resiliency. His recent words of appreciation just showed his hardness and capacity to squarely confront his challenges. Warner Brothers rapidly realized Clint's potential as his popularity grew and purchased his contract from his former employer. Jack Warner personally proposed altering Clint's last name to Walker, a name that would soon become famous, particularly given Cheyenne's popularity. Clint, nevertheless, was not a naturally born cowboy. He knew little about riding horses when he initially came on the program and was cautioned that he may find himself in very hot water if he didn't pick it up quickly. One near call occurred during a sequence shot over a small canyon. Though his water canteen collapsed entirely in the process, Clint's horse kept scratching against the canyon walls, and he barely escaped harm by elevating his legs just in time. At last, Clint discovered his ideal partner in a horse called Brandy, his constant friend on set. Brandy by his side gave Clint more confidence. The horse even showed up in numerous movies. Still, Clint was unsatisfied to be only a TV star. He sought greater career control. He left Cheyenne in 1,958 inches, search of a greater salary and the flexibility to focus on independent ventures like recording records and films. Warner Brothers objected to this choice and sought to cover the void with other Western series such as Bronco and Sugarfoot. Following months of discussions and a trip to Illinois, Clint eventually made his way back to Cheyenne with a better offer, making more money and the freedom he yearned to explore his interests outside of TV. Let us now explore the specifics of Clint's personal life and the catastrophes that dogged it. Clint Walker's personal life. There were times in Clint Walker's personal life when he experienced both love and heartache. There were 3 marriages that he went through, and each one lasted for almost 20 years. When he first met a fascinating young woman named Lucille Garver, who was known to many as Verna, it was in 1947. This was his first opportunity to experience love. At the time that they initially came into contact with one another, she was employed at an ice cream parlor in Alton. Following the passage of 1 year, on the 5th of September 1948, Clint and Verna tied the knot, marking the beginning of what appeared to be a wonderful chapter in his life. On the 31st of January 1950, they became parents to a girl named Valerie Jean Walker, who was born at the time only 18 months into their marriage. In the future, Valerie would go on to achieve a notable accomplishment by becoming one of the first female airline pilots. This was a noteworthy accomplishment, particularly for that era. On the other hand, Clint's life was not always a walk in the park. After 20 years of marriage, he and Verna decided to go their ways and formalize their divorce in the year 1968. Even though it was a challenging time for Clint, Verna continued to be a loving mother and eventually became a dedicated grandmother, all the while making precious friends along the way. After going through the divorce, Clint devoted himself entirely to his writing. He had a brush with death in 1969, but by that year, he was more focused on his work than he had ever been before. He was utilizing his passion for acting as a method to go forward. While skiing at Mammoth Mountain Resort in California in May of 1971, Clint Walker was involved in an accident that came dangerously close to taking his life. His skiing experience was limited, but he was not considered an expert in the sport. Unfortunately for him, the ski poles that were provided to him were too short for his tall stature, which resulted in his having to ski in an uncomfortable posture. He lost his balance and crashed to the ground with great force as he downed the steep hills. On the occasion of the fall, one of the ski poles penetrated his heart by a distance of 4 inches before bending. The tremendous agony that Clint was experiencing did not prevent him from continuing to slide down the mountain. Because the pole had been detached from his chest, he became aware of the extent of the damage he had sustained. After attempting to stand, he fell to the ground, unconscious. We are thankful that the ski patrol was able to locate him and promptly transported him to the closest hospital in Bishop, California, which is around 35 kilometers away. At first, the physicians at the hospital were unable to detect a heartbeat or pulse, which led them to conclude that Clint had passed away. While they were getting ready to transport him to the morgue, they left him in the corridor. Despite this, they were taken aback when they discovered that Clint was still alive when they returned. Immediately, he was taken into surgery, where the physicians tried to repair his ripped aorta as well as other injuries. Curiously, Clint managed to survive despite the pain that was inflicted upon his heart. The fact that he awoke the next morning without any evidence of brain injury is even more incredible. It is a real miracle in the field of medicine. Clint was discharged from the hospital 10 days after his arrival, and within 2 months, he was back on the job, appearing with Telly Savalas in the film Pancho Villa. Clint received the devastating news that his mother, Gladys Shawanda Walker, had gone away on the 30th of August 1972 while he was filming in Spain. This was Clint's second opportunity to express his feelings for his mother. Giselle Hennessy ended up being the woman that Clint fell in love with once more, 5 years after he had divorced Verna. It was on the 26th of May, 1974, in Santa Monica that they tied the knot. Clint and Giselle were both 46 years old at the time of their marriage, and it was their second marriage overall. A relocation to Grass Valley, California, was made by Clint and Giselle in the year 1991. In a tragic turn of events, Giselle was diagnosed with a deadly form of cancer just a few years later. On the 1st of January 1994, she passed away at the age of 65, leaving behind a marriage that had lasted for over 20 years. The Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California, was the location where she was put to rest. Following her loss, Clint's father, Paul Arnold Walker, also passed away on the 3rd of May, 1996, at the age of 90. This occurred 2 years after her death. The final years of Clint Walker were filled with love and sorrow once more. Clint Walker rediscovered love when he was 69 years old. The wedding took place in a private ceremony at his residence in Grass Valley on the 7th of March, 1997, and it was attended by Susan Cavallo. Although Clint was a well-known Hollywood celebrity, he was always renowned for his reserved and private personality. His family's privacy was very important to him, and he gave reporters very little information about his personal life. Even though he had been famous for many years, Clint chose to keep the attention on his job rather than on his relationships. The year 1998 marked the year when Clint took on his final acting job, delivering his voice to Nick Nitro in the film Small Soldiers. On the other hand, his followers had no idea that this would be the final time they would ever watch his work on TV. Tragic events, however, were never far behind. When his twin sister, Naomi Lucille, passed suddenly at the age of 73 inches, Hartford, Illinois, on the 11th of November, 2000, Clint was confronted with a profoundly upsetting loss. The burial took place in the Valhalla Memorial Park Cemetery in Godfrey, Illinois, where she was laid to rest. Clint was dealt a devastating blow when he lost his sister, since the two of them had always had a strong connection. When the 18th Annual Golden Boot Awards were held in the year 2000, Clint and Susan were there. However, Clint was struggling with his health despite his outward appearance of happiness. His infamous face-to-face encounter with death, while skiing, had already established his reputation as a guy who could defy destiny. But as he got older, the difficulties he was having with his health started to show their effects. Despite this, Clint continued to be a representation of tenacity, both on and off the screen. Health struggles. The 1980s were the decade in which Clint first started feeling chest problems and shortness of breath. He was diagnosed with coronary artery disease, which was most likely made worse by an event that occurred when he was skiing many years ago. Even though Clint underwent bypass surgery, the respite it offered was only momentary. He experienced several heart attacks over the subsequent decade, which progressively weakened his heart. Even though his physicians advised him to ease down, Clint refused to entirely retire. He continued to perform, but he took on roles that required less physical exertion since he was driven by his desire to become an actor. At the beginning of the 21st century, Clint was suffering from atrial fibrillation, which caused him to be weak and short of breath. Although the medications have several unpleasant side effects, a cardiac defibrillator was able to assist in stabilizing his condition. Despite this, his health continued to deteriorate, and he became more and more weak. Clint stayed animated and involved in conversation with guests right up to the very end, despite the difficulties he was experiencing. "I will miss you, Clint Walker." Normandy Eugene Clint Walker was taken to the local hospital in Grass Valley, and he unfortunately died away on the 21st of May 2018, owing to congestive heart failure. His passing occurred just 9 days before he would have been 91 years old. The cremation of his remains was carried out by his intentions, and his wife Susan received the ashes of his body. Valerie, the couple's daughter, and Susan were present by his side during the final moments of his life. Cheyenne Bodie Clint Walker, a well-liked character who was recognized for his generosity and courage, has concluded his journey. That he battled to cope with the effects of the skiing accident till the very end of his life was something that his wife revealed. The prizes. Throughout his outstanding career in the entertainment business, Clint Walker has been recognized with several accolades and distinctions, which serves to underline the enduring impact that he has had on Western cinema. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which can be seen at 1505 Vine Street, within proximity to the intersection of Sunset Boulevard, is one example of such honor. An enduring memorial to Clint Walker's influence and accomplishments in the entertainment industry, this well-known monument bears his name and serves as a permanent tribute to his achievements. Another notable award was bestowed to Clint Walker in 2004, when he was inducted into the Hall of Great Western Performers at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. This induction highlighted his long impact within the Western genre and praised his enormous commitment to presenting cowboy heroes on both the big screen and the small screen by recognizing his substantial contributions. Additionally, Clint Walker was honored with the Golden Boot Award in the year 1997, which further cemented his position as a prominent figure in the Western entertainment industry. The Western sidekick comic Pat Buttram is the one who came up with the idea for this distinguished award, which is presented on an annual basis to persons who have made major contributions to Western film. This honor is intended to emphasize Walker's vital role in establishing and preserving the classic Western stereotype. Clint Walker's link to his Texas origins was honored in 2017 with the gift of an inlaid Bronze Star medallion on the Texas Trail of Fame at the Fort Worth Stockyards National Historic District. This accomplishment was a celebration of Clint Walker's connection to his Texas heritage. This designation on the Texas Trail of Fame honors his significant contributions to Western culture and places him in the same category as other notable figures who have made an indelible effect on the history of the state of Texas. Clint Walker's entrance into the world of film was like a splash of color on a blank canvas, painting it with his hue that stands out strikingly. His impact continues to expand with each passing year, engaging the hearts of people who admire his work and serving as a source of motivation for aspiring storytellers. His name is not only a footnote in the annals of Hollywood history, rather it is a beautiful symphony that reverberates through the ages, serving as a reminder of the genuine grandeur that can be accomplished with passion, dogged determination, and unflinching commitment. His astonishing ascension from modest beginnings on a farm to the glitz and glamour of Hollywood is one of the most intriguing aspects of Clint Walker's story. He began his life on a farm. It is a narrative that is full of resiliency and tenacity, and it resonates with many people all across the world who are dreamers and hard workers. At this point, you must articulate the element of Clint Walker's life that struck a chord with you. Tell us about it in the comments section. I appreciate you watching. Tell us about it in the comments. I appreciate you watching. Subscribe so you don't miss out on future exciting videos.